So Yishai, in your book, Theology of Absence, we're going through different spiritual teachers of yours, Morim, and we went so far through Rav Shagar, and then we went through Franz Rosenzweig. So I want to mention a third, which I think is a surprise when I first started reading it in your writing. The other two, I can imagine it there. The third is Rebbe Nachman. The reason why it's a surprise is, the majority of people who hear the name Rebbe Nachman think of, joy, in a sense of like dancing and, almost Nana Nachman on the top of a car dancing and there's almost this lightness and non-intellectual focus, definitely not philosophy and psychoanalysis and Lacan and Derrida. So it was very shocking to me when I started reading your books that you have put Rebbe Nachman so central into your writings, and you're such an intellectual giant, in my opinion. And the question is, why Rebbe Nachman? And whenever I teach students of mine Rebbe Nachman, they're always surprised that he has an intellectual side, because they always think, well, Rebbe Nachman is just about, just be happy. And when I read your writings, it's almost like a different Rebbe Nachman. That he's just so brilliant, Rebbe Nachman. He's has such critical thinking and such thought-provoking thoughts about life and death, and happiness and sadness and the Chalat Panui. So I want to ask you, number one, when were you introduced to Rebbe Nachman first? And number two, how did you eventually get to this such intimate relationship with Rebbe Nachman that he becomes this spokesman for this very profound, theology of yours?
Your question deals with what we call neo-Chassidut. Because I don't want to be critical, and because I don't want to spit into the well that I drew my water from, I will shomer piv ulshono. I will explain to you. I was introduced to Rabbi Nachman in the beginning of Shiur Aleph. I'm 18 years old. That is the time of the Pritza, of the New Chassidut. Because I learned in Hebron, Kiryat Arba Hebron, in my high school, so I got things of that Chassidut from Yitzhar and Shechem, Ramat Gan, but never almost through Torah learning, but more dancing, Kalibach and things like that. But those years are the years of Mamash. Pitom Rab Nachman is, I won't say everywhere, but he's something that you cannot not see. So I bought Likutei Moharan, Likutei Sichot, Shivchei Aran, Sichot Aran, Ishtapchut HaNefesh, Likutei Halachot, and I started learning, mostly on my own. I heard a shiur po, a shiur sham, but it was on my own, struggling, again feeling that promise, and I felt that promise over there, Nachman. But I didn't have the key for Rav Nachman, because the way I was taught to read him was the neo-Hasidic way of reading that shallows up a lot of Rav Nachman's depth, critical thought, and so on. So I held this book, Likutei Moharan. I felt Esheli Tukad Al Biat HaMashiach. I felt it, but I had no way to approach that fire. I tried a lot. Again, because of the way of readings that I got to hear, Vayara vayanu merachok, was from far. I was always disturbed. I felt that this is not it. I also took upon myself to do some of his etzot. I did it bodedut, mikvah, and I suffered. And the bodedut was a time of suffering for me. More and more I felt the absence. Again, Theology of Absence, I think, more and more rose through those episodes of Itbodedut, that I felt that I'm really alone. Really alone. But again, his fire was there, like the feeling that I'm not reading him right. I know that I'm not reading him right. And one of the big things the Rav Shagar was for his students was giving them the opportunity to read. I call it ladat likro. Giving them the opportunity to be involved in the text that they're reading and learning, and bringing that text into life. So yes, once I got to meet the Rav Shagar, I didn't just only feel like in my heart that this is a fire, but he gave me the first tools, how to read it, how to read. And once he taught me that, like you're saying, Rebbe Nachman, intellectual, it's a contradiction. For me, there's no other way to read him. I don't understand how somebody else can read him differently. Like, differently not meaning come to the conclusions I come through him, but because Rebbe Nachman involves you with trying to understand what he's talking about, and Rebbe Nachman mechayev otcha to think your religiousness beyond what you know. Beyond what you know. To think your religious world from the beginning. To think it, not to feel it. To think it. And the Rav Shagar gave me those in the first chapter. I deal with one of the big things Rebbe Nachman gives you the opportunity, what's called their alefim nefulim. That means Rebbe Nachman gives you the opportunity to read the Torah from that absence notion, from that absence as a existential fact. I will be careful. It's not that that's the only way Rebbe Nachman gives you, and that's not the only Rebbe Nachman that there is. There is the Rebbe Nachman that I understand how they took parts of Rebbe Nachman, yeah, but when I say that you can think your Judaism or your religious world beyond what you thought it means that beyond what you thought, that if something is not there anymore, so everything will collapse. So Rebbe Nachman's Likutei Moharan, and Rebbe Nachman's Chayei Moharan, Rebbe Nachman's Sichot Haran gives you the ability to understand that even after the collapse, nothing collapses. And that you can understand. That I think Rebbe Nachman is the most unique Hasidic thinker, because also it's embedded his language, that is a broken language, fractures and all that. It's his life, full of frustration, sadness, and sickness, And that life, as we know with Rebbe Nachman, is not distinguished from the Torah. It's written into his Torah. I will end this question is the reason why I don't want to spit into the well that maybe if there wouldn't have been that Chassidut Chadasha, I wouldn't have gotten Rebbe Nachman into my hand. So I act to it a lot of times as Chamoro shel Rabbi Pinchas ben Yair. Not Stam Chamor, Chamoro shel Rabbi Pinchas ben Yair.